Awesome. So we're going to move up chain. When we think about knees, this is super simple. Your knees are just dictated by your feet, right? If your feet are forward, your knees are forward. If your toes are out, your knees are out, okay? If your feet are out and your knees are forward, we all know that it's not efficient. You look like a bit of a dunce, and you just shouldn't do it, yeah? The best analogy is if your feet are in sand, anytime you're doing a compound movement, if your feet are in sand, they should be doing that, right? So your knees, you initiate the movements, your knees go from here to there, okay? You just screw your feet, creates a lot of stability, yeah? All right, now we're gonna talk hips to shoulders, okay? Or torso angle. There are many ways to do it, and it partially depends now on your strengths, okay? And this is where your best deadlift technique now is different probably from ideal deadlift technique, and it identifies a lot when it comes to your programming, okay? And how you can actually improve long term. So if you're someone who likes to sit way up and your torso angle is virtually parallel to the ground, or what I would call 0 degrees, you're probably really strong posterior chain. You need a little bit of work on things like your quads, things like front squats and whatnot. On the contrary, if you sit way far down and your torso is really upright, you're probably avoiding a lot of work in the posterior chain. Or there's a neural component, i.e. you're doing it like you do your cleans, yeah? And this position is not strong for deadlifts, okay? You want your torso angle to be somewhere between 15 and 45 degrees above parallel, okay? Let's take a step back and go feet. How do we think foot placement changes torso angle? Biomechanics,
just by
101.
how far your knees are traveling forward versus how
Yep.
your torso's angled, right?
Yeah, so if you push your knees forward, your torso is going to tend to be more upright. If your shins are vertical, well, you have to get down to the bar somehow, right? So you're folding over more, okay? So let's do a couple more warm-up sets. We're thinking two things now, foot placement and setup, and we're thinking torso angle. Between 15 and 45 degrees. If you're someone who struggles off the ground, torso angle should be less. You should be more bent over. If you're someone who struggles at lockout, you should try to be a little bit more upright. Okay? Now, this is, those who are following, this is sort of backwards, right? Because I said, if you push the knees over the bar, your hips are going to tend to be lower, okay? And your torso angle is higher, meaning it's better at lockout, but knees over the bar is better off the ground, okay? This just comes to how do we drive the bar off the ground, and how do we lock things out efficiently? We tie it together when we talk about this area here, yeah? So think about those two things. Let's get a couple more warm-up sets in. You guys are going to be like absolutely fried by the end of today. So talk to me, which category are we falling into?
I'm thinking I struggle more with getting it up. I think if I get here, I'm all right.
Yeah.
It's more pulling off the guy, I
Yeah,
think.
and we're going to talk about thoracic vertebrae in a little bit, but for CrossFitters, your thoracic vertebrae is the reason. I promise you. Yeah? So take this bit a little bit more with a grain of salt, but let's take a look.
I'd love to.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. So we're going to talk about this a bit more, but go down to the ground, like you're about to start pulling. You see that? How like he scoops the upper back?
Yeah.
Okay, so if you keep a stiff upper back, I can't even get down there. If you keep a stiff upper back, you're going to get down so far to get to the bar, and then when you're here, since it's already stiff there, so easy. But if you keep a neutral upper back, then like you go from here, and now you're at the bar. And so it's way easier off the ground. But we'll get there, yeah? Same principle applies though. If you're struggling off the ground, bring your feet a bit closer, push your knees a bit over the bar. That's going to help.
Is that when you want your toes out a little bit more too, or not?
No,
Not that.
toes forward, because toes out is gonna have the knees traveling out, not forward. Your thought here wants to be forward,
Okay.
yeah?
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, thanks.
Of course. Give me a couple more. Okay, how's your ankle mobility?
All of my mobility is
Or just give me a knee to wall test, just to sky.
like here.
Yeah, how far back can you go? Your arches are crazy high.
Yes.
Yeah, that doesn't help you, but okay.
Would you say
It's not horrendous. It's not horrendous. The first place I'd go, because you're right, as soon as you come in, you're gonna be so kind of, it's gonna be so uncomfortable, right? But if you combine the two and you take your feet a little bit wider, you keep your toes forward, and you put a little bit more pressure in your toes and your heels off the ground, then you should be able to drive that much easier. Yeah? Now, this is one of those things will not feel unbelievable today, but it raises your ceiling. Okay? Toes straight forward. Okay. Left toe forward. Left toe forward. Yes, there.
like you
Okay,
feel
better.
really light now?
Okay? The general rule, the more you can push your knees over the bar, the more you're going to use your quads off the ground. Much better.